The story begins with our protagonist, Takumi, being summoned to a new world by a goddess named Nalin. She apologizes to him, explaining that his arrival was an accident. Nalin tells Takumi that the summoning spell randomly selects individuals from a list of chosen ones, but he wasn't supposed to be part of it. Unfortunately, the spell is so powerful it could destroy the world, which is why it's forbidden. However, a nation activated it recklessly. Nalin, angered by this, tried to stop the spell, but failed. As a result, she brings Takumi to this world temporarily. Takumi soon realizes that he was a mistake and just wants to return home. However, Nalin reveals that she's patched the forbidden spell, preventing it from ever being used again. To make things worse, Takumi no longer has a body to return to and must start a new life in this world. He can't join the other chosen ones in the Empire, as they would treat him poorly. Nalin promises to send him to a great nation instead, one like those found in fairy tales. Takumi, now 17 years old instead of his previous age of 40, will no longer be a salaryman. He can now choose a combat or production job. Hoping for a peaceful life, Takumi chooses a production job. Nalin gives him her blessing and some items to help him on his journey. When Takumi crashes into the new world, he finds that he's no longer a hideous loser. Checking his stats, he realizes he truly has Nalin's blessing, but decides to keep it secret to avoid trouble. Testing his new abilities, Takumi is amazed to find himself in a fantasy world. After using his blacksmithing skills to turn a tree branch into a spear, he gains the woodworking skill. His appraisal skill reveals a treasure trove of herbs nearby. However, his bag fills up quickly, and he remembers the special item box Nalin gave him, which provides infinite storage. Suddenly, a small rabbit-like creature attacks him. Takumi prepares for battle, fearing the creature might be carnivorous, but he quickly defeats it, earning the swordsmanship skill. Surprised that a beginner like him could win, Takumi becomes a level 1 warrior, though he's upset because he didn't want a combat job. The rabbit-like creature's owner, a child from a nearby village, takes Takumi there and suggests he take the rabbit with him since it's delicious. Takumi stores it in his item box, amazed that the child can see his concealed storage. Meanwhile, in the Empire, 3 students from Takumi's old world are trying to understand what happened to them. A woman introduces herself as Elizabeth, the first empress of the Sidonia Empire, and explains that they are heroes summoned to save the world. While the boys are distracted by Elizabeth's strange appearance, a girl named On secretly receives the goddess's blessing. A message tells her to trust her instincts, and she quickly realizes that Elizabeth can't be trusted. Meanwhile, Takumi is thanked by MDI's parents for saving her. He's given permission to stay in the village, and he's thrilled to learn that there's a vein of ore nearby, making this village a paradise for craftsmen like him and the blacksmith Bowen. However, the village lacks an inn, but Takumi is surprised when Bowen says they can simply build him a house. The villagers start preparing to build, and Takumi amazes everyone by using earth magic to level the ground, which also gives him the mana manipulation skill. Although using the magic drains his energy, everyone is astonished that he can use magic at all. The villagers assure him that they'll handle the rest of the construction. Later, Takumi settles into his new home, crediting his woodworking, blacksmithing, and carpentry skills for the nice furniture he made. While still unhappy about being assigned the warrior job, Takumi is relieved when he can change it to the alchemist job. He then begins working with some iron, silver, and copper ore he mined earlier, as well as magic iron ore, which is imbued with mana. Takumi realizes that in a fantasy world, he doesn't need a furnace to melt the ores, he can simply use magic. Excited, he begins practicing alchemy, explaining the 5 techniques: decomposition, extraction, pulverization, synthesis, and recomposition. It's hard work, but he's thrilled with the possibilities. That night, Molly visits Takumi, but is horrified to find he's nearly exhausted. After scolding him and ensuring his recovery, Takumi immediately returns to his alchemy without taking breaks. He only slows down when the girls check on him. Takumi then uses the ingots he made to craft utensils and tools, which skyrockets his alchemist level to 32. His work doesn't stop there. He uses his magic to help Bowen create the finest weapon he's ever made, pushing Takumi's blacksmithing job to level 40. Takumi then asks Mary's father for some potions to learn how to make them. Mary's father agrees, as long as Takumi promises to sell the potions to him once he learns. Takumi eagerly mixes the herbs, but notices the potion he creates is different from the sample he was given. He senses mana emanating from it and wonders if it's because he used water magic instead of regular water. Later, Takumi eats a random plant and experiences painful effects. Fortunately, he has the heal spell to recover. Takumi reveals that he ate the poisonous plant on purpose to quickly gain resistance and raise his light magic skill. well. Although the process is harsh on his body, he finds relief in knowing he can now use purification magic. His relief is short-lived though, when a giant pig monster suddenly appears. Takumi's dagger and spear are useless against the beast, and it sends him flying. Desperate, Takumi tries several spells, but they don't work. Just as he's about to be attacked, he notices another monster sneaking up behind him. It turns out that a spider, though injured, is protecting him. Sadly, the spider sacrifices itself to distract the monster, leaving Takumi alone again. In panic, Takumi remembers he has one more option: alchemy. Using decompose on the beast, he miraculously defeats it, becoming victorious. Takumi limps over to the injured spider, thanks it, and uses healing magic to close its wound. As he prepares to leave, he's stunned to receive the tame skill, and the spider becomes his pet. Takumi asks if the spider wants to join him on his adventure, and the little creature happily agrees. Takumi names his new pet Spider Maple, and is stunned when she instantly evolves. Upon returning to the village, everyone is amazed to hear that he defeated a giant boar. However, they are shocked when they see him being attacked by a spider, only for Takumi to explain that he actually tamed it. What's even more impressive is that insect monsters aren't supposed to be tameable. While everyone celebrates with a feast from the boar, Mary's father advises Takumi to head to a big city and sell the leftover parts of the monster for a lot of money. As the celebration continues, the villagers acknowledge how much livelier their little village has become since Takumi's arrival, but they also believe he's destined for greater things and won't stay in a small village for long. Elsewhere, Nalin is pleased with Takumi's progress in his adventure. Another goddess wonders what Nalin is planning, as she granted Takumi a special body and her blessing. It's revealed that Nalin also sent Takumi 1 year into the past, before the Empire activated the summoning spell. While Nalin may not have a particular reason for this, it's clear that she sees something special in him. Later, Takumi scolds Maple for a strange reason. While he was asleep, his new pet had used its webs to trap him. Maple apologizes, explaining that she was lonely because Takumi had been too busy with potion making and other work. Takumi acknowledges that it's his fault for not spending enough time with her, and he promises to take the day off to play with her. Maple is overjoyed, but when Takumi's guest, Martha, sees the spider, she's terrified. Takumi quickly reassures her that Maple isn't trying to eat her, but Martha becomes intrigued by Maple's silk. She later amazes everyone by using it to create a beautiful cloak. Takumi is confused about why everyone is so excited, but the ladies explain that spider silk is a luxury item, rare and usually bought up by nobles. The girls thank Maple, and Martha asks if she can create more elastic thread. Takumi tries to explain that Maple doesn't understand anyone except him, but surprisingly, when Martha speaks to Maple like a child, the spider responds. Takumi is amazed that they're actually communicating. Takumi reminds Maple that they were supposed to play together, but Maple now has a purpose and is too busy to play. Takumi is happy that his pet has found a new purpose, and at least she's content. Takumi reflects that he's been in the village for a month, but is ready to head to the city, soon to further his alchemy skills. The problem is, he doesn't know how to tell everyone he wants to leave because they've been so kind to him. At the forge, Bowen has made a set of armor for Takumi. He says he'll need to reinforce the boots for all the kicking Takumi does, but Takumi reminds him that he's not a fighter, he's a producer. Bowen laughs, pointing out that no producer could walk into a forest and defeat a giant boar like Takumi did. Just then, Ban arrives and says it will be lonely without Takumi. Takumi is confused, but it turns out the villagers knew all along that Takumi would eventually move on. For his production job to grow, he needs to go to the city where there's higher demand and better material supply. A trader from Bolton City is arriving in the next week, and they've already arranged for Takumi to travel in his carriage. The villagers completely understand Takumi's need to leave, and Takumi thanks them for everything. Later, Takumi finds Martha, who's carrying some rabbit innards. She explains that they are the most delicious part of the rabbit, but need to be processed properly to remove any diseases and parasites. Unfortunately, the village doesn't have the tools for the job. The innards of the rabbit would normally be discarded, but luckily, Takumi has some skills. He uses his purification magic to cleanse the disgusting-looking innards, making them safe to eat. Martha is stunned by his ability to use light magic, which is extremely rare and highly sought after. She thanks him, relieved that the innards won't go to waste, but warns Takumi to keep his light magic a secret. Only a few people in the world can use it, and those with enough skill can make a living from it. While no one in the village will reveal his secret, it would be dangerous to show others outside of it. For the next week, Takumi pours all of his energy into improving the village. He grows to care deeply about the villagers and wants to make their lives safer and more convenient, repaying them for all they've done for him. He replaces the village's wooden wall with a stone one and uses his alchemy skills to make taps for all the kegs. When the trader arrives, he's shocked at how much the village has improved. Takumi meets the trader named Popik, who owns a trading company in the city. Before saying his goodbyes, Takumi gives Manga a batch of potions he made, including 100 healing potions, which he asks to be distributed to the villagers in case of emergencies. Popik is amazed by Takumi's potions and can hardly believe they are self-made. As Takumi prepares to leave, the villagers gather to bid him farewell. Molly says goodbye to the sleeping maple, and Martha presents Takumi with a beautiful coat made from maple silk. The ladies work together to create it, and Takumi is deeply moved. He thanks everyone and says goodbye, considering the village his true home in the new world. Takumi's new friends, Riel, a redhead, Bogar, a bald man, and Heath, a blonde, are part of a C-rank adventuring party called Lion Fang, and they're serving as bodyguards for Popik. They're a bit bored because the area is so peaceful, and they'd welcome some monsters to fight. Takumi, however, is worried. When they ask about the bag he's holding so tightly, Takumi reveals that his pet spider, Maple, is inside. The men are terrified, but Riel still tries to sneak a peek at Maple. Takumi is shocked when Maple bashes Riel in the face. He scolds Riel for his behavior and wonders if the incident will make Maple fearful of humans, but Maple seems to like Bogar, a fatherly figure. Popik asks Takumi if he would be willing to sell some of his potions. Just then, the carriage halts, and the group wonders if a monster has appeared. Takumi is horrified to see a large group of goblins, but the adventurers reassure him it's no big deal. The guys quickly take care of the goblins, with Beryl taking down the last few and collecting the magic stones from the beasts. Afterward, the rest of the trip continues peacefully. 3 days after arriving in the city, Takumi accompanies Lion's Fang to the Adventurers Guild to report the success of their escort quest. Takumi also needs to register with the guild to stay in the city and to register Maple as his pet. Although Takumi hoped to register with an alchemist guild, the city doesn't have one. Hans, the receptionist, explains that registering with the Adventurers Guild will still be useful, as the guild card can serve as identification. As long as he takes a simple quest once a month, his card will stay active. Takumi registers with the Adventurers Guild and lists Maple as his pet. Later, he explains to Popik that he has 100 potions, and Popik offers him 10 silver for each healing and stamina potion, and 50 silver for each mana potion. The payment is substantial, translating to about 7 million yen in Takumi's old world. Despite the generous offer, Takumi is suspicious, wondering if Popik has an ulterior motive. However, Popik doesn't seem deceptive and changes the subject, recommending that Takumi find a home with a workshop, as he plans to establish himself as a producer. Takumi doesn't have enough saved to buy a house, but Popik offers to help him rent a place. Takumi is stunned when he's shown a mansion available for rent at a very affordable price, 1 gold and 50 silver per month. Wondering if the place is haunted, Takumi realizes that the rent is within his budget with the money he will make from selling potions. The mansion even has a shed for his workshop, so he agrees to rent it. As Takumi walks through the city, he notices a strange stench and learns that it comes from the sewers. The nobles use magical purifying devices to treat the sewage from their mansions, but the rest of the city doesn't have the means to purify the sewers. Devices like these are expensive, as they must be excavated from dungeons or ancient ruins. While priests are hired to purify the sewers periodically, most of the city has to bear with it. The next day, Takumi and Maple move into their new home. Takumi has already planned to repair the city's outer walls, but something more pressing comes up. He uses clay and quartz mixed with magic to craft a life or death project. After shaping, heating, and using space-time magic to speed up the baking process, Takumi uses alchemy to stabilize the item. It's an exhausting process, but Takumi succeeds in making a toilet, a life-changing invention. His alchemy and skills level up in the process. Just as Takumi finishes, he hears a terrifying scream. To his surprise, Maple has captured an intruder, Popik. It turns out that Maple was just entertaining him. After being freed, Popik asks to use the restroom, where he's stunned by Takumi's creation. Takumi explains the function of the toilet, which includes a magical purification device that turns waste into clean water and a small amount of inorganic material. Popik wonders if Takumi has an aptitude for light magic, but agrees to keep it a secret after Takumi begs him to do so. Popik is so impressed that he asks Takumi to make at least 100 more toilets. Takumi agrees agrees, but only if he has the materials. Popik suggests that Takumi hire a helping hand and even proposes contracting a slave bound to secrecy by magic given Takumi's talents. This new proposal leaves Takumi considering his options. Popik suggests that Takumi hire a slave not only for protection but also to manage the mansion. He explains that slaves could help with the heavy tasks and ensure Takumi's safety, especially with his aptitude for light magic. This talent, Popik warns, could attract attention from the Church of Divine Light, which exploits those with light magic for profit. Takumi, reluctant to use slaves, wonders if it's necessary to make 100 toilets. Popik insists that the work must be done secretly, and getting a slave would help ensure Takumi stays out of the church's grasp. Takumi, however, refuses to use slaves. Popik argues that with the right assistance, Takumi can focus on his work, but Takumi remains adamant about doing things on his own. Their conversation is interrupted when Takumi's guild card glows, reminding him that he must complete a quest to keep his registration active. Takumi reluctantly agrees that he needs extra hands. Popik takes him to Mullen Company, the city's most trusted slave trader, to discuss the possibility of hiring a slave. While waiting, Takumi wanders into a garden and spots a girl. She coldly tells him to go home, which leaves him startled. Eventually, Takumi meets the owner of the trading company, who explains the process of forming a slave contract in the kingdom of Barula. Unlike Takumi's homeland, where slavery isn't practiced, the kingdom of Barula protects the rights of slaves. Contracts are legally binding, ensuring food, clothing, shelter, and protection from harm for both parties. The owner explains that slaves can be contracted for various reasons, including debt repayment, reformation, and even prisoners of war. Popik suggests Takumi consider a war slave, as they are bound by contract and cannot be freed without their master's permission. Takumi reveals that he wants a slave who can assist him with housework, protect him, and accompany him during dangerous travels. The owner, Mulan, agrees that 2 slaves would be ideal for Takumi's needs. Mulan introduces Maria, a girl who was kidnapped by bandits. This is the first step toward Takumi's decision on whether or not to take on a slave, and the arrangement could offer him the protection he needs for his future endeavors. Sophia is initially cold and distant toward Takumi, believing that her condition makes her unworthy of being of any help to him. Despite the imperfections such as the scar on her left ear, the impaired movement in her right hand and left leg, and the sealed elemental and sprite magic, Takumi feels a strong intuition to pursue her as a potential ally. Maria, who had been part of the conversation, seems to have her own concerns but refrains from interfering, suggesting a deeper connection between her and Sophia. Takumi, intrigued by Sophia's situation, insists on meeting her alone, feeling compelled by his intuition skill. When he does meet her, he quickly realizes that her status reveals that despite the impairments, she possesses incredible strength. His initial thoughts of her being a potential asset to his team change when he learns that the impairments are the result of a curse, which has bound her potential for so long. After using his appraisal ability, Takumi becomes confident that he can heal Sophia's limbs and dispel the curse that has held her back for over 50 years. Mulan is skeptical, but intrigued by Takumi's confidence, and she begins to believe he might have the ability to heal Sophia. Takumi, seeing her as a valuable ally and combat asset once healed, expresses his desire to form a contract with her, which surprises both Sophia and Mulan. Sophia is still reluctant and unsure about Takumi's intentions, questioning how he could possibly fix what has been wrong with her for so long. But Takumi reassures her that he can help her, offering her the opportunity to fight again without the limitations that have been imposed on her. As the conversation continues, Sophia becomes increasingly upset, and Takumi, sensing her frustration, directly asks her to be honest about how she feels toward him and the situation. This exchange shows Takumi's growing sense of responsibility not only toward the people around him, but also his willingness to help those who may seem broken or unworthy. It also sets the stage for an eventual contract with Sophia, who could become a powerful ally once healed, while also bringing her deeper into Takumi's growing network. Sophia remains distant, refusing to express much gratitude, but begrudgingly accepts the contract with Takumi. Despite her coldness, Takumi respects her decision, reassuring her that she doesn't have to be overly polite. With the magic portion of the contract completed, the deal is finalized, and both Maria and Sophia are now bound to him. Maria, eager to prove her worth, vows to work hard to stay in Takumi's service for a long time, and even Sophia, though still reticent, thanks him. Takumi then takes them to his mansion, where they are greeted by Maple. The girls are both shocked and curious to learn that Maple is his pet spider, especially especially one described as a killing spider. They are even more surprised when Takumi reveals that each of them will have their own room in the mansion, and that there is a large bath for them to enjoy. He reassures them that it doesn't matter who bathes first, thanks to the magical cleaning device he installed in the bath. The girls are impressed by the mansion and Takumi's thoughtfulness, but Sophia's suspicions grow when she notices that many of the details in the contract, including Takumi's background and lineage, were left blank. She starts to worry that Takumi may be hiding something about his true identity. Later, Takumi cooks dinner for the girls, which makes Maria feel guilty about her role as a slave, but Takumi reassures her, saying it was simply a gesture for her first day. Sophia, ever the realist, reminds him that it's traditionally considered rude for slaves to eat with their masters, but Takumi doesn't mind. He prefers to keep things informal and asks the girls to join him without any hierarchy. Meanwhile, in Peck's trading company, Takumi receives the items he ordered, though they are delicate, and promises to be careful with them. As he heads back to his mansion, he stumbles upon a church he hadn't noticed before. Inside, he sees a statue of Nalin, the goddess who brought him to this world. To his surprise, Nalin teleports him to explain her actions. Nalin clarifies that she didn't have any ill intentions towards Sidonia or its church. She reveals that there are two main religions, the Church of Creation, which has always worshipped her, and the Church of Divine Light, which was founded later and worships a false god. Nalin explains that the Church of Divine Light used force to spread their influence, even opposing the Church of Creation. She also refuses to interfere with the politics of humanity. The Holy Empire of Sidonia, in their quest for power, activated the spell to summon Takumi without her involvement. This new revelation casts more light on the tensions between the religious factions in the world Takumi now inhabits and provides a deeper understanding of the forces at play. Takumi's situation begins to shift as Nalin reveals that her super blessing, which has made his journey so far relatively easy, will eventually unravel. While he has benefited from this blessing, which helped him grow and meet people, Nalin warns him that as his world expands, he will face greater challenges. The blessing, which eased his path, will fade, and he will likely encounter dangerous individuals and difficult obstacles. Takumi realizes that the ease he's experienced has been because of Nalin's influence, and from here on, things won't be so simple. Nalin urges him to be cautious, leaving the future in Takumi's hands. 1 year later, in the Holy Empire of Sidonia, the king is informed that the summoned heroes are in training, needing to become stronger for the upcoming challenges. Akira and Yamato are sparring with others, but their trainers aren't impressed with their skills. Yamato, fueled by past failure in his old world, pushes himself harder during training. Meanwhile, Akira seems focused on protecting Elizabeth, but Aka notes that Elizabeth is a more dangerous person than she appears. These scenes show the growing tension around the summoned heroes, suggesting that their trials are only just beginning. Back in Takumi's world, 1 year into his new life, things seem to take a strange turn when Takumi arrives home and hastily hides a mysterious package from Sophia. This raises her suspicions, and when she overhears him talking excitedly to himself in his workshop, she fears he's up to something dangerous. She's shocked to see him cut himself, though he heals the injury right away. But it's clear that Takumi is pushing himself to level up his skills quickly in a somewhat reckless way. He admits to himself that this is necessary, despite how crazy it seems. Meanwhile, Sophia, confused and worried about Maria's well-being, demands to know what Takumi is planning to do to her. Takumi, however, has no idea what she means. Through his skills, Takumi realizes that Sophia has been suffering from extreme exhaustion, likely due to the curse that has affected her for years. He uses his healing magic and extra abilities to heal her, even dispelling her curse. Maria watches in awe as Takumi works, fixing her ear and healing her hand. Sophia, who had been burdened by this curse for so long, begins to feel the effects of his healing magic. Maria explains to Sophia that Takumi has been working hard to cure her, despite the dangerous methods he used, and Sophia, overwhelmed with emotion, finally understands the depth of his actions. She swears her lifelong loyalty to him, and Takumi is relieved to know that she now trusts him. Nalin, ever watchful, observes their interaction, subtly checking in on the progress of her chosen one. The story concludes with a moment of emotional growth for both Takumi and Sophia, setting the stage. While later, Takumi begins studying alchemy, only to discover that the subject is nearly forgotten, with only 4 books available in the entire library. He quickly realizes the art has faded because it originates from an ancient magical civilization, and few people today can understand its language. Thanks to the goddess's blessing, which granted him the ability to comprehend multiple languages, Takumi can grasp the knowledge and see sees potential in reviving alchemy. Back at home, Maria reminisces about how she saw Sophia and Takumi holding hands the previous night, imagining them as a knight and a princess. Though in her mind, Takumi is the princess. Her playful thoughts distract her as Takumi finishes mass-producing toilets, deciding it's time for a break. While he plans to continue inventing, he also dreams of going on adventures to gather rare materials, taste unique foods, and explore beautiful places and ancient ruins. Naturally, Sophia and Maple will accompany him, leaving Maria to manage the house. Maria, feeling left out, imagines herself as a lonely toilet abandoned in a desert and gives Takumi her best sad puppy eyes. Moved, Takumi checks her stats and is shocked to find that Maria is actually quite capable, with strong battle potential. Sophia agrees that Maria should join their journey, suggesting she could teach Maria magic and combat skills. Relenting, Takumi decides Maria will accompany them, and she eagerly agrees to train under him and Sophia. With the decision made, Takumi turns his attention to crafting weapons and armor for the girls. Sophia requests an extensive arsenal, a long sword, a 2.5-meter spear, a longbow for ranged attacks, and a set of knives. Maria, trained with short blades, is less demanding, though Sophia suggests adding a spear to help her fight monsters. Takumi gets to work, using ingots of magic steel as materials. As Sophia demonstrates spear techniques to Maria, Takumi completes the weapons, leveling up multiple times in the process. To personalize the designs, he adds wing motifs to Sophia's weapons and flame patterns to Maria's. He also casts enhancements like increased attack power and auto-repair onto the blades. However, while imagining how Maria might wear her short blades strapped to her legs, Takumi passes out from exhaustion. Meanwhile, Maria feels a strange sensation on her leg, as if her weapon is already calling to her. Next, Takumi plans to craft their armor, but obtaining measurements directly from the girls isn't an option for him. Thankfully, he's prepared. Using his appraisal ability, he creates detailed dolls of Sophia and Maria to use as reference models. Though the dolls are a bit scandalous in their detail, they ensure accurate armor fitting. He decides to incorporate the horns of a boar into the armor's design for durability and aesthetics, preparing to continue his crafting spree. Takumi's journey of invention, combat preparation, and teamwork begins to take shape as he and his companions prepare for the adventures ahead. After crafting the armor using boar hide for durability and Maple's threads for flexibility, Takumi completes the designs with a balance of functionality and style. The girls are thrilled with the results, finding the armor both comfortable and easy to move in. They are especially impressed by how perfectly it fits, but Takumi keeps a secret of how he managed this to himself, quickly steering the conversation toward the weapons he made. The weapons, along with magic-imbued rings designed to boost their mana, further impress the girls. Grateful for his hard work, they thank him sincerely. Takumi downplays his efforts, mentioning that crafting these items helped him level up his production skills and even unlock ice and lightning magic. With their new equipment, the girls register as adventurers, starting at the H rank. Takumi registers their party and learns that he must complete guild quests to maintain his guild card. While browsing the quest board for H rank tasks, Sophia points out that low-level quests won't help Takumi earn points. Takumi, unconcerned with ranking up, is fine with that. Their conversation is interrupted by a group of thugs who approach, attempting to flirt with the girls and mock Takumi. Despite his fear, Takumi steps forward to defend his friends, calling the lead thug rude. This provokes the thug, who throws a punch. But, to everyone's shock, he ends up taking the damage himself. Takumi used one of his skills to deflect the attack. The other thugs prepare to retaliate, but the guild master, Barak, arrives to de-escalate the situation. The girls explain what happened, and a receptionist confirms that Takumi acted in self-defense. Barak orders the injured thug to be healed and takes Takumi aside to discuss how he handled the attack. Initially reluctant to explain, Takumi eventually reveals that he didn't cast magic. Instead, he used synthesized diamond, created from charcoal in his item box, to protect himself. The receptionist, impressed by Takumi's quick thinking and alchemy skills, recognizes his potential. Barak agrees, suggesting that Takumi be promoted to D rank immediately, not only for his abilities, but also to deter further harassment. Though flattered, Takumi is hesitant to accept the promotions since the girls have just begun their adventuring journey. He decides to prioritize their growth and take things step by step, ensuring they are prepared for whatever challenges lie ahead. Barak agrees because because this will make it less likely for thugs to mess with Takumi. However, since the girls just registered as adventurers, Takumi doesn't want to rush them. The guild receptionist suggests selecting some quests for them so they can rank up faster. Sophia thinks it's a great idea since improving their skills and rank will help her fulfill her vow to protect Takumi. The girls agree, and the receptionist presents 3 quests: exterminating goblins, exterminating cows, and gathering herbs. For the first quest, Maple scouts ahead and spots 4 goblins nearby. Sophia quickly takes out 2 with her magic, and the rest of the team works together to defeat the other 2. All 3 quests are G rank, and the rewards are 5 or 6 silver coins each. However, the team notices that they've been encountering an unusually high number of goblins and kobolds. They even complete enough battles to finish their quests early. Sophia wonders if there's a monster base nearby, possibly led by a goblin general. Goblin generals are C-rank monsters, and it usually takes at least 5D rank or higher parties to eliminate a base led by one. Takumi points out that they aren't strong enough for such a task, but Sophia is already making plans. She believes that with her spirit magic, Takumi's elemental magic, and Maria's earth magic, they can use a large-scale area attack to thin out the enemy before tackling the base. Takumi is hesitant, but Sophia is determined, and Maria is eager to join. Just then, Maple speaks up, and Takumi worries she might be injured. Instead, Maple surprises everyone by announcing that she's about to digivolve again. Takumi quickly sends her to rest using a pocket dimension he created with his level 3 spacetime magic, leaving the girls amazed since they've never seen anything like it before. The group eventually finds the goblin base, but Takumi still doubts whether this is a good idea. Sophia, however, is already in full battle mode and insists this is the perfect time for an area attack, since the monsters are grouped together. The 3 of them combine their magic, wiping out a large portion of the base. Takumi celebrates, but Sophia reminds him the job isn't done. The Goblin General and a Goblin Knight remain, both advanced species. Takumi reluctantly faces the Goblin General and manages to level up many of his battle skills during the fight. Using all his strength, he unleashes a powerful fire attack, finally defeating the general. A while later, Hans, the receptionist, is shocked to see they completed all 3 quests in just half a day. Nervously, he takes them to Barak, who is stunned by their achievement. Typically, such a task requires an extermination squad with multiple D rank or higher members. As they explain what happened, Maple reappears after evolving again. This time, she can talk, and her new form is so adorable that the girls can't stop fawning over her. Takumi, meanwhile, feels overwhelmed by how unpredictable his journey has become. Before Hans prepares their reward, he informs Takumi that he has been promoted to rank E. While the girls are now rank F later, Maria approaches Takumi and asks him for some cloth. Takumi suggests she ask Maple to make some, but Maria explains that Maple's materials are too high quality for what she needs. She reveals that she wants to make simple underwear for herself and Sophia, showing Takumi her rough plan. Takumi tells her she's got the design all wrong and sketches out what proper underwear should look like. Maria is offended by his criticism, prompting Takumi to quickly backtrack and apologize for his bluntness. Maple interrupts their conversation to inform Takumi that he has a guest. It turns out to be Papik, but he's unconscious. Maple casually explains that he fainted after seeing her evolve form, so she just tossed him into the room. When Papik regains consciousness, he reveals that the Lord of Bolton City wants to meet with Takumi. Surprised, Takumi learns that this request might be related to the purification magic devices he created. Papik explains that this lord is the person he mentioned earlier, the one offering protection against interference from the Holy Empire of Sidonia. With no choice but to accept the invitation, Takumi goes to meet Lord Marcus. Marcus expresses his amazement at the magical device Takumi created to purify water. It has significantly improved the city's sanitation, preventing disease outbreaks and saving countless lives. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Marcus even bows to Takumi, explaining that he doesn't mind showing respect to someone who has helped his domain so much. Marcus also acknowledges Takumi's role in eliminating the goblin base, which his own knights had failed to address. Marcus warns Takumi to remain cautious, as his abilities and accomplishments could make him a target for the Holy Empire of Sidonia. Later, an exhausted Takumi returns to his room, only to find that Maple has finished crafting the undergarments based on his designs. He delivers them to the girls, but the process had taken him 3 whole days, leaving him completely drained. When Takumi nervously wonders if the girls plan to try them on, they misunderstand his concern and offer to wear them immediately if it would make him happy. Overwhelmed by the situation, Takumi retreats to his room, feeling the pressure mounting. anything. Alone, he starts to lose his composure and reflects on Naline's warning about everything coming undone. Battling some inappropriate thoughts, Takumi struggles to regain control and suppress his evil side. A few days later, Takumi builds 3 refrigerators from scratch because he craves ice cream. The girls notice a cool breeze coming from them, so they open the doors and sit in front of them. Takumi doesn't know how to explain ozone layer depletion to them. Instead, he thinks about how he combined iron and other elements to create stainless steel, and then used a magic cooling device to complete the invention. He tells Maria that this box will keep food fresh for a long time. She thanks him, happy that she can always have fresh ingredients. Takumi decides to keep the blue refrigerator since Sophia likes it and takes the other 2 to show Paper Eye. He then tells the girls that his next project will be upgrading their weapons. Sophia thinks they don't need an upgrade yet, but Takumi insists that they should prepare for future adventures. Later, he visits the guild to learn about high-quality materials like mithril and adamantite. The receptionist tells him these metals are rare because no blacksmith here can work with them. However, the blacksmiths in the dwarves' country are more skilled. Then, the receptionist remembers that Takumi is an alchemist and suggests that he could synthesize mithril himself, but it's exhausting and inefficient. The fastest way to get it is by mining in a location to the northwest, but only members of the blacksmith guild are allowed to enter. However, there's a loophole. If Takumi accepts a quest to defeat monsters in the mine, he can collect mithril and adamantite while hunting. Takumi likes the idea. Suddenly, the guild master appears with more news. The city needs trotwood, which comes from tree monsters called trats found near the mine. Takumi is a bit nervous because the bald guild master is standing too close to him, but he takes the quest. The guild master also tells him that a blacksmith needs a bodyguard for the trip and wants Takumi to take that job too. Takumi realizes he's getting overloaded with work, but the guild master promises to promote him and his team if they complete the missions. He accepts and then asks how long the journey to the mine will take. The receptionist says it takes 1 week with normal horses and 4 days with monster horses, but unfortunately, there are none available. Just then, the red-haired adventurer Real, whom Takumi met earlier, arrives. Real says his party is currently using the monster horses. He also tells the guildmaster that they hunted a buffalo on the way, so he returned to deliver it before it spoiled. He plans to rejoin his friends tomorrow. Takumi invites Real to stay the night at his place, and he gladly agrees. Later, Real accompanies Takumi to visit Peck, who goes crazy upon seeing the refrigerator. When Peck learns that Takumi is heading to the mine, he offers a monster horse-drawn carriage in exchange for some ores. Takumi accepts the deal, and Peck also requests more refrigerators. After that, Takumi visits several blacksmiths to see if anyone has mithril, but he finds no one who can help. By the time he returns home, it's already dark. Suddenly, Real spots a hostile figure approaching them. Instead of fighting, he grabs Takumi and tries to run away. The hooded attacker kicks Real down, then reveals herself to be Sophia. She thought Real was kidnapping her beloved master Takumi. She prepares to strike him down, but Takumi stops her. After realizing the misunderstanding, they apologize to Real. He says it's fine, but now he has a lot of questions. When they reach the house, Real is flabbergasted to see Maple's evolved form and jealous that Takumi lives with 3 cute girls while he's still single. Later, Takumi tells his team about the quests he took from the guild, and they agree to start the mission the next day. After Real leaves, Takumi begins working on their new weapons. He attempts to forge a massive tungsten sword that absorbs enemy mana, but it's incredibly difficult to use alchemy on it. He manages to turn it into a block of tungsten and forges 2 swords from it, but the process drains all of his mana. 3 days later, Takumi and his party set out on their journey, along with the blacksmith to Gambo. When they reach the forest where the trats, tree monsters, are found, they park the carriage at a safe distance and cast a barrier spell around it before heading off to hunt. Takumi has no idea what trats look like, but Sophia, who has experience dealing with them, can tell which trees are actually disguised monsters. When she gives the signal, Takumi attacks the first one. The trot fights back, but they easily block its attacks and take it down. Suddenly, a massive horde of trats surrounds them. Sophia suggests using magic to deal with them quickly. They unleash wind magic, and Maria buries several enemies with earth magic. Takumi joins in, using his weapons to level up his combat skills. Just as they think the battle is over, the trot boss appears. Sophia cuts its branches with magic, while Maria and Maple provide support, but the boss regenerates its limbs quickly and keeps attacking. Sophia tells Takumi to enchant his sword with fire magic and strike its core. He immediately does so, covering his sword in flames before stabbing the monster, killing it instantly. The boss drops 2 rare items, miracle apples. The next day, they arrive at the mining city of Horus, where the blacksmith gives them their next task: defeating iron moles that eat the ores in the mine. As they head inside, Takumi's maxed out luck kicks in, and he quickly finds both mithril and adamantite ore. Suddenly, the ground shakes and Maple senses approaching monsters. The group prepares for battle, but Takumi comes up with a plan. As soon as an iron mole emerges from the ground, Takumi uses magic to create a bright flash of light, blinding and stunning the creature. Sophia swiftly slays it. Takumi explains that since moles live in complete darkness, they can't handle sudden brightness. The girls are disappointed that the fight ended so quickly, especially Maria, who wanted to show off her skills. Regardless, they successfully mine a large amount of ore without any disturbances and return home. Takumi then goes to Gambo's workshop to learn how to handle mithril and adamantite. He spends days working like he's in the final round of Forged in Fire. Eventually, he manages to combine different materials with the ores to create mithril alloys infused with elemental attributes. He uses these to modify their armor, making it both lighter and stronger while also enhancing their attack power. His upgrades give the girl's armor a boost in magic attacks, while his own armor enhances his speed. Excited to test it, he attempts a demonstration but loses control, crashing into a wall and accidentally French kissing it. Embarrassed, he tells the girls to forget what they just saw. Moving on, he presents new weapons: a wind spear for Sophia and a fire spear for Maria. Both are thrilled. Sophia tells Takumi that her main job is to protect him, and that she would even sacrifice her life for him. She requests a sturdy shield to fulfill her duty, but Takumi urges her to value her own life more. He forges the shield for her, but by the time he finishes, he's completely exhausted. Sophia starts worrying about him. He's the only one capable of doing such skillful work, and it's putting too much strain on him. She wishes he had an assistant to help with the technical work, so he wouldn't have to bear such a heavy burden alone. The story begins with our main character, Sakamoto, appearing in a building armed with a sword and a gun. Suddenly, an explosion shook the structure, revealing a group of assassins determined to kill him. Spotting Sakamoto, they opened fire. With unmatched skill, Sakamoto swiftly deflected all the bullets with his sword before charging at them. He struck the first assassin with a slash, causing blood to spray onto another gang member. He then shot the second man from behind. 2 more assassins approached, but Sakamoto quickly strangled one and shot the other. As the rest of the gang attacked with machine guns, he effortlessly dodged the hail of bullets, returning fire and taking them out one by one. Eventually, only one survivor remained, frantically searching for him. Sakamoto appeared unexpectedly, aimed at the last man, and swiftly ended the confrontation. Afterward, Sakamoto abandoned his criminal life, choosing a peaceful path. While shopping one day, he encountered a beautiful woman whose charm captivated him. Falling in love, he decided to leave his past behind. They married, had a child, and Sakamoto opened a shop, devoting himself to his family and peaceful living. One day, Shin, a former gang associate, came looking for Sakamoto. Meanwhile, at the shop, Sakamoto played with a young boy who frequently visited. The boy attempted to hit a target drawn on the glass with a toy arrow but missed. As the boy prepared for another try, some school supplies spilled from his bag, staining a customer's clothes with ink. The man, angered by the mishap, grabbed the boy by his shirt and berated him. Sakamoto watched calmly as the man continued yelling. When the boy accidentally dirted the man's clothes again, the customer raised his hand to strike him. Sakamoto intervened, briefly imagining subduing the man with a pen but refrained from acting. The man insulted Sakamoto for his weight before storming out of the shop. The boy, in tears, thanked Sakamoto for protecting him, and Sakamoto's wife and daughter comforted him. Soon after, Shin appeared in the shop, praising Sakamoto's speed and restraint. Shin, who had the ability to read minds, noted that Sakamoto could have easily defeated the man earlier. Sakamoto briefly imagined striking Shin, but Shin, reading his thoughts, scolded him for it and reminded him of their past partnership. He emphasized his loyalty to Sakamoto. Sakamoto served food to Shin, who then asked if he had truly left his life of crime and killing behind, and if opening the shop marked the start of a new chapter. Shin pointed out that Sakamoto had gained significant weight and urged him to return to his former ways. Sakamoto, however, replied that he was no longer the same person. Shin reminisced about Sakamoto's powerful past, highlighting the fear and respect he commanded among leaders. Frustrated, Shin insisted that Sakamoto should reclaim his former glory, but Sakamoto Sakamoto ignored him and continued eating. Exasperated, Shin mentioned that Sakamoto used to eat street food and never indulged in such refined meals, hinting at how much he had changed. Lighting a cigarette, Shin prepared to smoke, but Sakamoto snatched the cigarette before he could light it, pointing to a no smoking sign nearby. Shin was taken aback by Sakamoto's strength and realized the gesture was more than just enforcing a rule, it was a subtle warning. It conveyed that Sakamoto could eliminate him with ease if he wanted to. While Shin was still processing this, a man on a bicycle approached. Sakamoto greeted him warmly and asked if he needed help. Shin was surprised to see Sakamoto aiding others, a far cry from the fearsome figure he remembered. The man explained that a tree in his yard had grown too large, with its branches sprawling uncontrollably. Accompanying the man to his home, Sakamoto swiftly pruned the tree with incredible speed, leaving Shin stunned. Shortly after, a woman approached Sakamoto, explaining that her daughter refused to eat. Sakamoto resolved the issue effortlessly, feeding the little girl and calming the mother's worries. Later, he encountered two crying children fighting over a single ball. Each wanted it for themselves. To settle the argument, Sakamoto split the ball in half, giving each child a piece, which resolved their dispute. Shin, growing increasingly frustrated with Sakamoto's peaceful lifestyle, accused him of hiding his true self behind acts of kindness. He bluntly told Sakamoto that his current appearance was disgraceful and announced his departure. Just as he was leaving, a small child playfully threw a toy arrow at Shin's head and ran off. Shin, visibly annoyed, scolded the child before heading to his car. As Shin drove, he reflected on how he hadn't seen Sakamoto in 5 years. He noted Sakamoto's significant weight gain, but also acknowledged that his speed and strength remained unmatched. Despite his frustration, Shin felt a glimmer of happiness and secretly hoped they could work together again. His excitement led him to hit his head repeatedly on the car's dashboard, shaking the vehicle and alarming pedestrians who fled in panic. Shortly afterward, Shin received a call from his boss. The boss asked if Shin had convinced Sakamoto to return to their gang. When Shin said no, the boss asked if he had killed Sakamoto instead. Shin replied that he hadn't, explaining that Sakamoto was now overweight and posed no threat. Angered, the boss reminded Shin of their gang's rules. Anyone who retires must be eliminated. He warned that if Shin didn't kill Sakamoto, someone else would be sent to do it, and Shin would be killed as well. Overwhelmed, Shin ended the call abruptly. Returning home, Shin tried to distract himself. He bought supplies, took a bath, ate, and lay in bed, deep in thought about his boss's ultimatum. He realized that if he didn't act, someone else would harm Sakamoto. Gripping his weapon, Shin resolved to handle the matter himself. As he prepared, memories of their past battles together surfaced, reminding him of Sakamoto's strength and loyalty. The next day, Shin visited Sakamoto at his shop, claiming he was leaving the country and wanted to say goodbye. Suddenly, Shin drew his gun and fired at Sakamoto. However, Sakamoto deflected the bullet midair, using a hard candy from his mouth, altering its trajectory and avoiding harm. In the next instant, Sakamoto vanished from sight, leaving Shin searching the store in vain. Unable to read Sakamoto's thoughts, Shin became increasingly frustrated. Suddenly, Sakamoto distracted him by tossing a pack of chocolates, forcing Shin to shift his focus. Using candy as improvised projectiles, Sakamoto launched several rapid strikes, mimicking bullets. Shin skillfully dodged them all, retreating and leaping to gain distance. As Shin raised his gun to fire again, Sakamoto hurled a pack of pastries at him, disrupting his aim once more. Shin paused to locate Sakamoto, but was caught off guard when Sakamoto appeared behind him, delivering a single, powerful blow that knocked him unconscious. Just before losing consciousness, Shin caught a glimpse of Sakamoto as he had been in the past, strong, precise, and fearsome. Shin woke up in an unfamiliar home to see Sakamoto's daughter, observing him curiously. She quickly called for her mother, who informed her that their guest was awake. Surprised by the warm and domestic setting, Shin noticed Sakamoto's wife preparing a large meal. She asked him how much rice he wanted, and he modestly replied that he didn't need much. Suspicious, Shin initially thought the food might be poisoned but reassured himself that he could handle it. When he began eating, the delicious taste overwhelmed him. Reluctantly, he admitted he had never eaten anything so good and complimented the food, calling it excellent. Sakamoto's wife chuckled and remarked that Shin's reaction reminded her of how Sakamoto used to be in the past. Meanwhile, Sakamoto was nearby, busy feeding his daughter. Shin observed the scene and reflected on the peaceful and happy life Sakamoto had chosen. As Shin prepared to leave, Sakamoto escorted him outside. Embarrassed, Shin thanked him for the meal. Sakamoto pointed to a sign on his shop that read, "We hope to see you again." Back at the gang's hideout, the boss confronted Shin, demanding to know if he had killed Sakamoto. Shin remained silent, prompting the boss to berate him for for disobedience, calling it a disgrace. Shin pleaded with the boss to leave Sakamoto alone, explaining that he had a family now and was no longer a threat. The boss, unimpressed, mocked Shin's loyalty and laughed at his request. Shin, determined to protect Sakamoto, even offered to sacrifice himself in exchange for sparing his former partner's life. The boss coldly dismissed the gesture, suggesting Shin kill himself if he truly wanted to save Sakamoto. However, the boss secretly intended to target Sakamoto regardless. Reading the boss's thoughts, Shin realized the betrayal and declared he had never trusted him, revealing his ability to hear thoughts. Shocked, the boss ordered his gang members to kill Shin. Gunfire erupted as the gang attacked, but Shin retaliated swiftly. At his shop, Sakamoto was eavesdropping on the conversation, using a listening device. Realizing Shin was in danger, Sakamoto transformed his peaceful shop into a makeshift armory, selecting a weapon and preparing for battle. Meanwhile, Shin managed to take down 4 gang members. One attempted to ambush him from behind, but Shin appeared behind him first, delivering a devastating kick to the neck that knocked him out. Another gang member aimed a heavy weapon at Shin, but Shin, reading his thoughts, dodged the attack effortlessly. The boss regrouped with the remaining gang members, scolding them for their failure to handle a single person. But before he could issue another command, an ominous presence loomed in the shadows. Sakamoto had arrived, ready to intervene. The boss explained that Shin was a psychic who could read their thoughts, instructing the gang members to attack from a distance to avoid detection. They surrounded Shin, limiting his options. Realizing he had only 1 magazine of bullets left, Shin quickly strategized his next move. Launching another attack, Shin managed to kill 2 more gang members, but a stray bullet struck his leg, immobilizing him. The gang encircled him, aiming their weapons, leaving Shin in a state of shock as he faced imminent danger. Just in time, Sakamoto arrived, using his unparalleled skill to incapacitate the gang members surrounding Shin. With precise movements, he knocked them to the ground one by one. The gang leader spotted Sakamoto and immediately ordered his men to kill him. The gang launched a coordinated attack, but Sakamoto countered with unmatched dexterity. Wielding only a pair of chopsticks, he swiftly disarmed and defeated several gang members. When one fired at him, Sakamoto caught the bullets with his chopsticks, then moved behind the shooter, grabbing and hurling him into 2 other attackers. 2 gang members opened fire with machine guns, but Sakamoto deflected their bullets using 2 pens, then threw the pens at them with lethal precision. Leaping into the air, Sakamoto grabbed a long rope and landed forcefully on 2 more gang members, kicking them down. Using the rope, he tied up 2 attackers and flung them aside. Sakamoto dashed toward another gang member, snatching his weapon just as another attacker lunged at him with a knife. He avoided the blade effortlessly and knocked the attacker out with a single punch. Seeing this, the gang leader frantically ordered his men to shoot Sakamoto simultaneously. As the hail of bullets rained down, Sakamoto revealed a sharp weapon, dodging the shots with incredible speed. He destroyed the leader's gun and swiftly eliminated the remaining attackers with flawless precision. Shin, astonished by Sakamoto's actions, asked how he had managed to locate him. Sakamoto picked up Shin's gun and revealed a listening device he had planted earlier, showcasing his foresight. Shin, impressed, admitted that Sakamoto was always 1 step ahead. Before Shin could finish his thought, Sakamoto cut him off by tossing him a work shirt and declaring that he would now be working at the shop. The scene shifted to the store, where Sakamoto and Shin were dressed in their work uniforms. Shin grumbled that Sakamoto should stop eating near him, pointing out that the noodles were almost finished because of him. Sakamoto's wife and daughter arrived, and the child ran happily to Shin, hugging him tightly. Later, Shin helped an elderly woman find what she was looking for in the store. A child then asked Shin to play, but Shin explained he was busy and would join after completing his tasks. Curious, the child asked if Shin enjoyed his new job. Shin hesitated, replying that he wasn't sure, but it was better than his previous one. The child pressed further, asking about Shin's previous job. Reading Sakamoto's thoughts, Shin realized Sakamoto was silently threatening him not to reveal the truth. Nervously, Shin told the child that he used to work as a cleaner. Sakamoto glanced at Shin and continued eating his food without a word. Shin resumed restocking shelves and assisting customers, performing his tasks exceptionally well. When Sakamoto passed by, Shin couldn't help but comment on the last battle, marveling at Sakamoto's combat skills. Despite his significant weight gain, Sakamoto, visibly irritated, told Shin to stop talking and get back to work. However, Shin persisted, expressing admiration for how impressive Sakamoto had been during the fight. Sakamoto's wife overheard the conversation and questioned him, asking if he had returned to fighting. Sakamoto immediately denied it, but she reminded him of the rule in their marriage. If he ever returned to combat, thought it would lead to their divorce. Sakamoto reassured her that he remembered the rule. Curious, Shin asked what the rule was. Sakamoto imagined eliminating Shin in frustration, causing Shin to feel a sudden sharp pain. Yelling at Sakamoto to stop doing that, Shin quickly backed off. Angry, Sakamoto told Shin to keep quiet. Later, Sakamoto and Shin headed to Chinatown. Shin was amazed by the vibrant surroundings and asked if they were there to buy supplies for the store. Noticing Sakamoto purchasing pork, Shin inquired about it. Sakamoto explained it was for his wife and daughter. Shin mused aloud that Sakamoto must deeply love his family and once again asked about the marriage rule. Sakamoto ignored him and kept walking. While they were in Chinatown, a young girl named Oh accidentally broke a window from a nearby building and fell, landing on Sakamoto and spilling the bag of meat he had bought. Furious, Sakamoto stared at the ruined pork. Shin tried to console him, suggesting they could clean it and still use it, but Sakamoto dismissed the idea, declaring it ruined. Before they could leave, a group of men chasing Oh arrived. The girl prepared herself to face them. Shin suggested they leave immediately to avoid getting involved, but Sakamoto, still angry about the ruined meal, replied that they had spoiled his daughter's dinner. Shin tried reasoning with him, saying it wasn't the right time, but Sakamoto remained firm. One of the men taunted Oh, asking if she thought she could escape like a cat by jumping out of windows. Oh confidently declared she didn't flee from men who were mere puppets. Two men attacked her, but she swiftly kicked one and defeated the other. Three more attackers remained, and one suggested surrounding her to prevent any escape. Oh leaped over one of them, striking him from behind, and then delivered a brutal beating to another. Shin watched in amazement at her strength. Oh threw the last man into a nearby dumpster. A large man from the group grabbed Oh from behind, restraining her arms. Another gang member approached, brandishing a knife and threatening to stab her. Another suggested they torture her first, smirking as he proposed to start by cutting her legs so she couldn't escape again. Just as he prepared to act, Sakamoto intervened, breaking the knife with a food utensil and sending the man holding it to the ground. Shin used his bag to strike the man restraining Oh, freeing her. Another gang member drew a gun and ordered them not to move, but Oh acted swiftly, striking the man's hands and causing him to drop the weapon. She knocked him to the ground. Shin, still in disbelief, wondered who this girl could be. Meanwhile, Sakamoto looked mournfully at his spilled pork. The remaining gang members, determined to capture Oh, launched an attack. Sakamoto quickly picked up Oh and ran, dodging gunfire. The gang struggled to keep up and eventually gave up due to exhaustion. At the gang's hideout, one of the men who had chased Oh pleaded with their leader, Dan, explaining that two men had helped her escape. Enraged, Dan scolded him for letting her slip away again and struck him with his staff, reminding him that he had killed an entire clan to capture her. Dan dismissed the men, but as he turned to leave, the gang's swordsman, Beato, stepped forward and decapitated him. The brutal act left everyone in the room paralyzed with fear. Beato, holding the severed head, pretended to stifle its complaints, joking with Dan. His brother stepped forward, sternly warning Beato not to joke about such serious matters and calling him a fool. He added that the taste of the situation wasn't pleasant. Dan addressed the two brothers, emphasizing the importance of capturing the girl. Oh, he explained that the key she possessed was crucial as it would grant them control over the black market. He ordered them to find her at all costs. B confidently stated that anyone who stood in their way would be killed. Dan gave his approval, telling them to do whatever was necessary. Meanwhile, Oh, Shin, and Sakamoto continued running. Shin questioned Oh about what was happening to her. She revealed that she was the daughter of a major mafia boss, and that the men chasing her wanted the key she carried. While jumping from rooftop to rooftop, she showed Shin the key. Shin suggested she hand over the key to save herself from trouble, but Oh refused. She explained that the key opened a vault containing all her family's treasures. Her father had entrusted it to her, and she recalled her mother tying the key around her neck while her father fought off enemies. Her parents had urged her to escape to ensure the key wouldn't fall into the wrong hands. Oh vowed never to give it away, asking Shin what she could possibly say to her father when they met in the afterlife if she failed to protect it. Oh apologized for burdening them and thanked them for their help before leaping away to distance herself. Shin tried to follow her, but Sakamoto grabbed him and stopped him. Sakamoto turned to Oh and asked if she could cook pork. Oh replied that her father had taught her how to prepare it and that she was capable. Sakamoto declared to Shin that their shopping trip was over and that they would solve O's problem. He made a deal with O, promising to take care of the gang if she agreed to cook pork for them afterward. Before Shin could respond, he sensed an incoming attack and tried to warn Sakamoto. However, it was too late. B delivered a powerful kick to Sakamoto's face, knocking him back and surrounding him inside the adjacent building with the gang. Shin grew increasingly worried about Sakamoto. Lu approached him, acknowledging how dire the situation had become. Meanwhile, Sun mocked B, commenting that his strikes had become weak. B dismissed the criticism, saying the initial blows didn't matter to him as he relished the thrill of killing and disposing of bodies. Sun retorted that even B's killing style had deteriorated. Confused, Shin asked who these two were. Lu explained that they were B and Sun, hired assassins who, regardless of the payment, found immense pleasure in killing their targets. They were relentless, never failing to capture their prey. Afterward, they would draw portraits of their victims as a twisted hobby, a testament to their deeply unhinged minds. B casually remarked to Sun that they had become quite famous, asking if that wasn't a good thing. Sun disagreed, saying that as killers, they should avoid drawing attention. At that moment, Shin launched an attack on Sun, attempting to strike him. Sun effortlessly blocked the blow and mockingly asked if Shin was angry over the supposed death of his friend. Shin confidently replied that Sun was foolish to think his friend could die and stepped back, declaring that no one truly understood Sakamoto's strength as a warrior. Sun scoffed, dismissing Shin as a child. Meanwhile, B moved stealthily toward Lu from behind, aiming to strike her with his sword. Before he could land the blow, Sakamoto arrived in time, delivering a devastating punch to B's face. The force sent B crashing into the ground, splitting the floor and causing him to fall to the lower level. Sun, watching casually, commented on Sakamoto's impressive punch, and B replied that the building was old and easy to damage. Turning his attention to Lu, Sun addressed her mockingly, asking if she would hand over the key, promising to kill her gently afterward. Lu stood her ground firmly, stating that the key was her only inheritance from her father and that she would never part with it. Sun dismissed her words as outdated, questioning why she would risk her life for something as insignificant as a key. Lu, enraged, yelled at Sun to be quiet and charged at him in anger. Before she could reach him, Sakamoto intercepted her and threw her back to prevent her from acting recklessly. Furious at being stopped, Lu glared at Sakamoto, but Shin interjected, advising her not to let their words provoke her into losing control. Lu turned to Shin and explained that the vault the key unlocked contained all her ancestors' possessions. She shared that her father had died protecting it and had been killed by these very fools. As she spoke, Sun suddenly hurled a knife at her, but Sakamoto caught it midair, saving her just in time. Sun glared at Sakamoto, warning him not to interfere and suggesting he should have let the knife strike Lu, allowing her to reunite with her parents in death. Sakamoto, unfazed, replied firmly, "No one here can give me orders." Lu turned to Sakamoto and asked why he wanted to help her. At that moment, Sakamoto's mind drifted to a memory from his past. He recalled returning home to his wife after purchasing a gift for her. When he arrived, his wife asked why he was late. Sakamoto explained that he had been working. Suspecting the truth, she pressed him, asking if it was his usual line of work, killing. He admitted that he had to complete the job so he could buy her the gift. His wife refused the present, saying it was tainted with blood just like his face. She told him there was no point in continuing their relationship and that they should part ways. Overwhelmed, she stepped off the edge of the building. Sakamoto, horrified, caught her midair and they embraced as they fell together. Emerging from the icy sphere, his wife admitted she had misjudged the height from the building to the ground. She approached Sakamoto and told him that someday he might lose her and understand the pain of such a loss. She reminded him that everyone has someone they love and don't want to lose. She asked him to promise that he would stop fighting and focus instead on helping others. The memory faded and Sakamoto returned to the present. Shin, deeply moved by the story, looked at Sakamoto with sadness. Sakamoto then turned to Shin and firmly stated, "That's my rule. I don't kill." The two brothers, Sun and Bato, launched a coordinated attack on Sakamoto and Shin. Bato aimed several strikes at Sakamoto, but none of them landed. Sun followed up by attacking Sakamoto with his weapon, but Sakamoto skillfully blocked all his blows. Meanwhile, Bato turned his attention to Shin, attempting to land a hit, but Shin evaded him. Shin tried to counter with a kick, but it was ineffective. On the other side, Sun threw a barrage of knives at Sakamoto, but Sakamoto dodged every single one. Frustrated, Sun hurled another set of knives, but this time Sakamoto caught them mid-air with ease. The brothers regrouped, and Sun asked B if he was thinking what he was. B confirmed with a smirk. They launched a flurry of rapid, synchronized strikes at Sakamoto, but their efforts were in vain as Sakamoto avoided all their attacks without taking a scratch. Shin approached Sakamoto to check on him, asking if he was okay. Sakamoto reassured him that he was fine, though he admitted his muscles felt a bit stiff. Sun, frustrated and confused, asked B how Sakamoto was able to evade all their attacks without even a scratch. Once again, Sun asked B if he was thinking what he was. B confirmed, and they attempted another attack on Sakamoto. This time, Sakamoto delivered a powerful blow to B's head. Enraged, Sun attacked Sakamoto, but Sakamoto broke his weapon with ease, leaving Sun in disbelief. Realizing he couldn't win, Sun decided to capture Lu and escape. However, Shin, who could read Sun's thoughts, intercepted his plan. Shin threw a rope around Sun's neck and yanked him to the ground. Sakamoto then dropped a large refrigerator onto Sun, incapacitating him completely. Lu, stunned by what she had witnessed, asked, "Who are you, really?" Sakamoto, calm and composed, simply replied, "We're just shop workers," as he casually ate a piece of crab. The scene shifted to Dan, fuming in his office as he struck the vault, frustrated by his inability to open it and claim its contents. Moments later, B and Sun were brought in, bound and defeated. Dan, startled, demanded to know who had done this. Before he could react further, Lu appeared behind him, holding a knife to his neck. Dan immediately panicked and begged her for mercy, promising to do whatever she wanted. Lu, her voice cold, told Dan to shut up, reminding him that nothing he could do would bring her father back. With one final blow, she knocked him to the ground. Shin, observing, asked if she was satisfied and joked, "I wouldn't mind adding a few punches myself." Sakamoto, imagining himself silencing Shin permanently, smirked in his mind. Shin noticed and, irritated, told Sakamoto to stop doing that. Sakamoto replied firmly that Shin should stay out of it. Lu, catching her breath, recalled her father's advice not to kill people in the streets, even when they angered her, and to focus on living a happy life. She then turned her attention to the vault. As she opened it, everyone was stunned by the treasure inside. Lu, however, stopped them from entering before her. Shin entered and picked up a book, immediately engrossed in reading it. Meanwhile, Sakamoto sifted through the jewels. Lu grabbed the book from Shin's hands, wondering what her father had left her. She then noticed a letter hanging inside a small container. She opened it and read her father's words. Curious, Shin asked what the letter said. Lu replied that her father had written about the best drink ever and how grateful he was for it. Shin chuckled and joked, "I hope it's as good as your father claimed." They all sat down on the floor, enjoying a meal of pork together. Lu commented on how everything had been completely shattered because of the events leading up to this moment. Shin teased her, saying it was all her fault. Sakamoto, tasting the pork, declared it was still delicious. Lu tried it herself and agreed, saying it was absolutely excellent. Lu arrived late at Sakamoto's shop, which immediately angered Shin. He confronted her, asking why she was late. Lu dismissed him, saying it was just a small delay. However, Shin retorted angrily, pointing out that being 2 hours late was far from a small delay. Looking at the refrigerator, Shin noticed it was in complete disarray. He criticized Lu, saying she was doing everything wrong. Lu nonchalantly replied that organizing things wasn't that important. Shin, visibly frustrated, remarked that she had no work experience at all. Lu countered with a sarcastic response, saying she used to help her father wrap and bury bodies underground. Shin stormed over to Sakamoto, urging him to fire Lu, claiming she wasn't suited for the job. Lu shrugged off the accusation, reiterating that organizing things wasn't essential. Shin argued back, insisting that the shop's work depended on proper arrangement and order. Sakamoto intervened, telling Shin not to speak to Lu in that manner. He then turned to Lu, calmly asking her to apologize if she was late again in the future. Both Shin and Lu stared at Sakamoto in disbelief, surprised by his unusually calm demeanor. Sakamoto, noticing their reactions, asked why they were looking at him as if they'd seen a ghost. He then instructed Shin to sit with him outside while asking Lu to prepare the pork dishes he had ordered. Shin mentioned that he had never heard Sakamoto talk so much since coming to the shop. Sakamoto replied casually, saying he was simply speaking normally. He then warned Shin to stop babbling so much or he'd kill him. Shin, taken aback, thought to himself about how much Sakamoto had changed, noting that this wasn't his usual way of speaking. Suddenly, another Sakamoto entered the shop, leaving Shin utterly shocked. The original Sakamoto calmly took a seat while the newcomer greeted him before lunging at him with a knife. Sakamoto dodged the attack with ease, countering by placing a weapon at the fake Sakamoto's neck. The imposter backed off, laughing, and revealed his true appearance, greeting Sakamoto as an old acquaintance. He admitted he still had a few tricks up his sleeve, which he was glad to show off. Shin, puzzled, wondered who this man was and why he couldn't read his thoughts. The stranger laughed and apologized for the earlier attack, introducing himself as an old friend of Sakamoto. He claimed to be 18 years old and mentioned owning a shop on the same street. Lu, skeptical, pointed out that there wasn't another shop nearby. Shin added that the man looked too young to be a longtime friend of Sakamoto. Sakamoto clarified that the man was indeed an old friend, though he was actually 27 years old. Despite the explanation, Shin and Lu still restrained the stranger by tying him to a chair to prevent him from escaping. The stranger calmly revealed that Sakamoto's life was in immediate danger. He explained that there was a $1 million bounty on Sakamoto's head and that anyone who killed him would claim the reward. Shin scoffed, remarking that the amount seemed insultingly low for someone like Sakamoto. The stranger added that the association had finalized the decision to kill Sakamoto yesterday, and that the news would spread widely by tomorrow. Just then, a pizza delivery man entered the shop, asking who had placed the order. Lu excitedly admitted she had, delighted to see her order arrive. However, Shin read the pizza man's thoughts and realized he was an assassin. Before anyone could act, the delivery man brandished a pizza cutter weapon and lunged at the stranger, pressing the blade against his neck. He warned everyone not to move, threatening to kill the stranger. Turning to Sakamoto, the assassin grew more agitated upon noticing that Sakamoto remained completely unbothered, calmly eating his food. Furious, the assassin shouted at Sakamoto, accusing him of ignoring him even as he spoke. Before the situation could escalate further, the stranger, now identified as Tojo, swiftly overpowered the pizza assassin, choking him and rendering him helpless. Tojo looked at Shin and insisted that he had been truthful about everything he had said earlier. He even suggested they work together, offering an alliance. Sakamoto, still unshaken, told Tojo to let the man go and leave. Tojo, however, questioned how Sakamoto planned to defend himself against the endless threats, and what he would do if Tojo himself became an enemy. He quickly added that he was joking and assured them he wasn't one of the attackers. Before leaving, Tojo hinted that it might be time for Sakamoto to return to the battlefield and fight alongside him. As Tojo was leaving, Sakamoto called after him, asking who else wanted to kill him. Tojo replied that such information was a secret he couldn't disclose, but advised Sakamoto to remain calm and composed, especially given his past record of eliminating so many people. Lu, curious, asked Tojo if all the assassins would disguise themselves like the pizza man. Tojo laughed and said he didn't think so, but added that assassins could be unpredictable. Picking up the unconscious pizza man, Tojo addressed Sakamoto one last time, saying it was an honor to see him again and a privilege before he met his end. Shin tried to chase after Tojo, but he was too fast and disappeared. Lu then mentioned that it was time for her to return to China. Sakamoto, staring at the untouched pizza, noticed something unusual on the screen of a hidden surveillance monitor connected to the association. In another location, within the association's headquarters, a cleaner remarked in frustration that he didn't understand why so much effort was being made to kill Sakamoto. He claimed that a man referred to as the black figure was far more dangerous than Sakamoto. His colleague, a man with long hair, hesitated before replying that Sakamoto's true potential was not to be underestimated. He suggested that Sakamoto could even kill him if he wished. Irritated, the cleaner snapped, asking why his colleague was speaking to him at all. The long-haired man apologized, admitting he had a bad habit of saying unnecessary things. Then, shifting the topic abruptly, he said he was hungry and suggested they order pizza. The leader of the association warned his subordinates to be extremely cautious of Sakamoto. He emphasized that they wouldn't be able to defeat him unless they caught him outside his usual environment. He stressed the importance of choosing the time and place carefully and creating difficult conditions to weaken him. He reminded them that Sakamoto was once one of them, which made him even more dangerous. The cleaner assassin expressed skepticism, questioning why there was much caution around Sakamoto. The long-haired man added that Sakamoto had been retired for 5 years and doubted his combat skills were still sharp. However, their conversation was abruptly interrupted when Sakamoto appeared on their surveillance feed. Calmly, he declared that he was waiting for any of them to come to him, promising to bury them in his shop. Shocked that Sakamoto could see them, they froze in disbelief as Sakamoto shot out the surveillance camera hidden in the pizza box. Later, Sakamoto and Shin sat outside the shop discussing recent events. Shin admitted he wasn't sure if Tojo could be trusted, but if what he said was true, they were likely heading for serious trouble. Sakamoto reassured him that they were fine for now, eating and drinking well, but emphasized the need to be prepared for anything. He added that they should improve their skills because their enemy enemies could be anyone. Sakamoto's wife and daughter then approached them. His daughter excitedly announced that she was ready to go. Curious, Shin asked where she was headed. She explained that she was going to the amusement park, something she had been eagerly anticipating for a long time. Sakamoto, confused, admitted he didn't remember anything about this plan but agreed to go. The next day, the group found themselves at the amusement park. However, boredom quickly set in for the adults. They rode a challenging amusement ride that left them all dizzy and exhausted. Lu, visibly tired, rested while Sakamoto groaned, saying he felt like vomiting. Shin, concerned, jokingly offered to call a doctor, but Sakamoto's wife assured him it wasn't necessary and that Sakamoto would be fine. As they rested, Lu noticed a magazine in Sakamoto's daughter's hands. The girl excitedly explained that it featured Sugar Bunny, a massive rabbit she had been eager to see. Lu remarked that the rabbit was as big as a gang leader. Sakamoto's wife expressed her happiness at having everyone together and urged them to enjoy the day. Meanwhile, Shin couldn't shake off Tojo's warning about Sakamoto being a target. Turning to Lu, he suggested they should ensure the safety of Sakamoto's family and make sure no one could get close to them. Lu noted that the amusement park was crowded, making it difficult to identify any potential threats. Shin reassured her, explaining that he could read the thoughts of people within a 30-meter radius. He added that if someone harbored murderous intent, he would sense their emotional energy immediately. Annoyed, Lu asked Shin if he also listened to her thoughts when they were together. Shin denied it, saying he was too busy with other concerns. Lu, somewhat relieved, commented that it was a useful skill to have. Soon after, Shin sensed the presence of a killer nearby and warned Sakamoto. Sakamoto acknowledged the threat calmly, while Lu distracted Sakamoto's wife and daughter to keep them occupied, ensuring they wouldn't witness anything troubling. The assassin, known as the Cleaner, approached Sakamoto, who readied himself for the confrontation. Tension thickened as the Cleaner moved closer, his hand gripping the handle of a knife concealed in his box. With a sudden lunge, he attacked Sakamoto, but in a swift and calculated move, Sakamoto grabbed a pen from the assassin's pocket and drove it into his body, neutralizing him instantly. Shin and Lu arrived moments later, their expressions a mix of shock and awe. Sakamoto's wife, unaware of the commotion in the distance, casually asked if anyone else had heard something unusual. Meanwhile, Shin and Lu discreetly transported the assassin's body to a secluded forest. As they disposed of the body, Shin marveled at Sakamoto's efficiency, wondering aloud how he managed to kill the man seemingly without even looking at him. Elsewhere, the long-haired man from the association reflected on his earlier warnings to the Cleaner about underestimating Sakamoto's strength. Despite his advice, the Cleaner had met his demise. Now, the long-haired man turned his attention to Shin, recognizing his ability to read thoughts as a potentially greater threat. He resolved to test his own luck against them. Back at the amusement park, Shin sensed an unusual presence but couldn't pinpoint its source. An unknown figure brushed past him unnoticed as Sakamoto, despite feeling uncomfortable due to his weight, joined his daughter on another ride. Shin and Lu followed suit, boarding the final ride of the day. As the ride began, Lu, still uneasy, asked Shin why they had chosen to sit where they did. Shin explained that their position allowed them to ensure the safety of Sakamoto's family. Lu, still skeptical, voiced her doubts, pointing at a long-haired man she had noticed nearby. The long-haired man, hearing Lu's suspicions, thought to himself that she had correctly identified him. Shin, picking up on the man's thoughts, immediately recognized him as an assassin and discreetly informed Sakamoto. "To your left," he said, nodding in the man's direction. Sakamoto glanced at the assassin, who wasted no time drawing his gun and firing. Sakamoto dodged the bullet with sharp precision. Shin, reacting quickly, broke his chair and leapt into the air, landing on the assassin and dragging him from his seat. Both tumbled onto the amusement ride's rails in a chaotic struggle. The assassin struck Shin midair, breaking free from his grip. They fell onto the rails, their movements causing a ripple of panic among nearby parkgoers. The assassin taunted Shin, calling him reckless and declaring his intent to kill him. Shin, unfazed, retorted Sakamoto's on his day off. "You picked the wrong place to cause trouble." As the ride's train approached, Shin leapt onto it to avoid being hit. The assassin followed, vaulting high into the air and hurling a barrage of knives at Shin. Shin dodged one, but the second grazed his side, inflicting a painful wound. He fell to the ground, disoriented and struggling to regain his focus. The assassin loomed over Shin, mocking him. "You took a strong hit. You're on the verge of death." Despite his exhaustion, Shin met the assassin's gaze with defiance. "I'm not dead yet, and you won't be the one to kill me." The assassin smirked. Denial. Typical. You're not like Sakamoto. He stares down death with unyielding eyes. You? You have the mark of a loser. loser. He continued, when people face death, it shows in their eyes. Over time, fear takes hold, paralyzing them. They hesitate, just like you did when you failed to evade my knives. The assassin's words hung in the air as Shin, bloodied but unbroken, prepared to make his next move. Shin, unfazed, called the assassin foolish and ignorant. He retorted that Sakamoto wasn't afraid of death, even if the assassin and all his allies came at him with everything they had. Shin confidently stated that Sakamoto's purpose was to protect his family, and that's what kept him alive and fighting. The assassin sneered, claiming he couldn't see the resolve Shin was talking about. Shin dismissed his words, saying it didn't matter what the assassin saw. He then declared that there was only one way to attack from their current position, narrowing the assassin's options. As the amusement train approached again, Shin made a calculated leap, confusing the assassin. Using the momentum, Shin positioned himself on a chair and launched a counterattack. However, the assassin managed to block Shin's strikes. The assassin then drew a knife and attempted to land blows on Shin, but Shin dodged each one with precision. While evading, Shin began analyzing the situation, recalling earlier moments in their scuffle. The assassin struck again with several rapid attacks, but Shin anticipated and avoided each one. Then, Shin caught a fleeting thought from Sakamoto, giving him clarity. Seizing the assassin's momentary focus on attacking, Shin grabbed hold of him and leapt off the amusement train. The two plummeted into the middle of a stage performance below. One of the performers, confused and startled, asked the assassin who he was. The assassin, visibly annoyed, threatened to kill the performer if he didn't get off the stage. Before he could act, another performer, a large rabbit mascot, intervened, urging the other performer to leave. The rabbit then revealed itself to be Shin in disguise, standing ready for the fight. The assassin revealed a set of knives, declaring his intent to kill Shin. However, Shin didn't let him finish his threat. He landed a powerful punch that sent the assassin staggering. The audience, thinking the fight was part of the stage performance, erupted in excitement and applause. The assassin retaliated with a flurry of strikes, but Shin dodged skillfully. Taking advantage of an opening, Shin delivered another solid punch, sending the assassin reeling. Meanwhile, Sakamoto's wife, sitting in the audience, turned to him and remarked on how realistic and thrilling the show was. Noticing Sakamoto's silence, she told their daughter that her father must be thoroughly enjoying the performance. In reality, Sakamoto was quietly guiding Shin, instructing him on the best moves to evade the assassin's attacks. Following Sakamoto's advice, Shin skillfully dodged the incoming strikes and countered with another powerful blow, further surprising the assassin. Bewildered, the assassin admitted he couldn't predict Shin's moves. In a desperate attempt, the assassin lunged at Shin with a sharp strike, cutting part of Shin's outfit near his face. The small tear revealed something startling. Shin had been keeping his eyes closed during the entire fight. Sakamoto, observing from the sidelines, calmly declared, "It's over." With renewed determination, Shin delivered a final devastating punch, knocking the assassin out and ending the fight. The audience erupted in cheers, applauding what they believed was an extraordinary stage performance. Sakamoto, signaling his approval, gave Shin a nod and a subtle gesture of acknowledgement. Shin, catching the gesture, responded in kind with a confident. Lu, scared, searched for Shin in the chaos. Meanwhile, two more assassins appeared, targeting Sakamoto. One of them, Agber, complained about working in crowded places, but her partner reminded her to focus on the mission. He warned her not to kill anyone except Sakamoto. Luau treated Shin's eyes with an antidote to counter the poison, making Shin wince in pain. Lu was relieved they had the antidote. The assassin smugly said he always carried such remedies as a precaution. Sakamoto asked him who had sent him, and the assassin hesitated, asking if Sakamoto would let him go if he answered. Before he could say more, Lu questioned him about his poisoned knives. When the assassin admitted it, Lu stabbed him lightly and dropped the antidote, threatening to spill it unless he cooperated. Under pressure, the assassin revealed that a company called Dongani had hired him. He explained that Dongani sent assassins on solo missions, leaving them to survive on their own. He cynically added that everything after death was toxic too. Shin called him out for mocking them earlier, noting that he wouldn't have talked without Lu's threats. The assassin admitted he only cared about survival and had no loyalty to Dongani. Curious, Shin asked if the assassin was registered with GAA. The assassin confirmed, leaving Lu puzzled. Shin explained that GAA was a global organization managing professional assassins. He and Sakamoto were former members. Lu examined the ID card, joking that it looked like a driver's license. Shin smirked, saying getting a GAA license was much harder. The assassin then asked Sakamoto if the rumors were true about him being a legend in the organization. Sakamoto didn't answer. Just then, his wife and daughter arrived. His wife saw the tied-up assassin and asked what was going on. Thinking fast, Shin claimed the assassin was practicing an escape act for the amusement park show. Sakamoto's daughter, excited, announced that lunch was ready. The group left, leaving the assassin behind. Before leaving, Sakamoto's daughter returned and placed a bandage on the assassin's hand, praising his performance. Stunned, he thanked her. Once they were gone, he used a hidden knife to cut himself free, muttering about trying again later. Shin, feeling drained from the events, admitted he couldn't read thoughts for the rest of the day due to the antidote's side effects. Lu scolded him, saying they were now more vulnerable. Shin apologized to Sakamoto for not being at his best. Sakamoto's wife and daughter returned, and his wife noticed the group's strange behavior. Suspicious, she asked if they were hiding something. The trio froze under her scrutiny. Meanwhile, in a bathroom, an assassin named Batso washed his hands. Another assassin, Bold, appeared behind him, saying he was there to deal with what's troubling him. Agbur suddenly attacked Batso, throwing him to the ground and demanding to know where he was running off to. Batso pleaded for space, but Agbur ignored him, scolding him further. Bold snapped at her to sit properly, saying a woman shouldn't sit so carelessly. Annoyed, Agbur adjusted her posture but remained stern. Batso, still on the ground, asked why they were there. BD replied that they had come to finish the job Batso had failed to complete. Agbur added that if he didn't handle his tasks, the organization wouldn't hesitate to eliminate him. She also mentioned that she was excited to meet Sakamoto and had been looking forward to this opportunity. Bold, on the other hand, revealed that Sakamoto would surely recognize him because of a scar on his face. Curious, Agbur asked if Sakamoto was the one who gave him the scar. Bold denied it, admitting sheepishly that he had actually tripped a few days ago and ended up with the scar. The two assassins then started bickering, leaving Batso watching in disbelief. He thought to himself that these two were completely unhinged, but acknowledged their deadly skills, recalling that they had once killed 100 men single-handedly. Meanwhile, Shin reassured Sakamoto's wife that everything was fine. She asked if they didn't have enough food, but Shin quickly denied it, saying the meal was excellent. Sakamoto's daughter then asked if they weren't enjoying the amusement park. Lu reassured her, saying they were excited to go on the next ride. They moved forward, with Shin and Lu remaining alert to keep the family safe. At a popcorn stand, Shin informed Sakamoto that there were no assassins nearby and that the situation seemed under control. However, Sakamoto remarked that such peaceful settings weren't ideal for killers, hinting at his unease. When they arrived at the next ride, they realized it was a haunted house attraction. Shin's face turned pale as he muttered that this was the perfect setting for an ambush. Inside, Bold and Agbur monitored them through surveillance cameras. Bold grinned maliciously and asked Agbur if she was ready for some bloody horror. As the group moved through the haunted house, they encountered staged ghosts and ghouls meant to scare visitors. Shin commented that Sakamoto's wife and daughter seemed genuinely happy, and Sakamoto told him to stay alert. Moments later, an assassin tried to attack Shin from behind but failed. He then targeted Sakamoto, who swiftly countered with rapid, precise blows, leaving the assassin immobilized. The entire time, Sakamoto pretended to be scared by the haunted house monsters, keeping his wife and daughter oblivious to the danger. Shin was impressed, remarking on how Sakamoto managed to fight while acting frightened. Sakamoto handed the assassin's identification card to Shin, who examined it and found out that the attacker was a newly registered first-class assassin. Shin scoffed, saying that if this was the level of assassin they were sending, there was nothing to worry about. However, Sakamoto, always cautious, reminded him to stay prepared. Back with Bold and Agbur, Agbur commented on Sakamoto's skill, amazed at his agility despite his weight. She admitted she couldn't wait to face him personally. Turning to Bold, she told him to stop making that noise and to quit his habit of exercising when stressed. Bold retorted that he wasn't stressed and was just eager to show off his moves to Sakamoto. Agbur reassured him, saying she would leave Sakamoto to him when the time came, jokingly calling them friends. This infuriated Bold, who shattered a bottle in anger before taking a drink. Yelling, he insisted that they had never been friends and never would be. His frustration brought back memories of his first encounter with Sakamoto. Standing in the bathroom, Bold recalled watching Sakamoto train. He had been friends with one of the trainees Sakamoto had defeated. As he observed Sakamoto practicing with his gun, he admired his precision and control, calling him impressive. He reminisced about their time together, including a moment on Valentine's Day when he told Sakamoto that assassins weren't meant to love because their hearts were too cold. Suddenly, a young woman approached Sakamoto, offering him a Valentine's gift and asking if he could be her date for the day. Bold was stunned when Sakamoto opened his locker, causing a mountain of gifts to spill out, showing how admired he was. Another assassin walked in, saw the pile, and asked Sakamoto who Bold was. Sakamoto casually replied that he didn't know him, which deeply angered Bold. Feeling humiliated, Bold stormed off. Recalling this memory, Bold admitted to Agbur that Sakamoto was never truly cold-hearted, unlike himself. Agbur asked if this was the root of their tension and suggested that Bold now had a chance to settle the score. However, Bold dismissed her, angrily shouting that he no longer cared. Meanwhile, inside the haunted house, Lu sighed, saying she wanted to go home. However, Sakamoto's daughter excitedly pointed out the zombies and wanted to see more. Shin teased Lu, saying the little girl was braver than her. In response, Lu pulled out a bottle and began drinking. Curious, Shin asked what it was. Lu revealed it was her family's favorite drink and tossed the bottle to him. When Shin sniffed it, he realized it was alcohol and, disgusted, quickly threw it away. As they ventured deeper, they came across a shaking door with what seemed like multiple people behind it. Ignoring Shin's warning, Lu opened the door, only for a horde of zombies and hidden assassins to rush out. Amid the chaos, Bold appeared and attacked Sakamoto, sending them both crashing to the upper floor. During the fight, Sakamoto threw an ID card at Bold, but he dodged it effortlessly. Smirking, Bold asked, "Do you remember me now?" Sakamoto simply replied, "No." Annoyed, Bold threatened to destroy him. Unfazed, Sakamoto asked about Bold's family. Sarcastically, Bold shot back, "Go find out for yourself, I'm not your mother." Meanwhile, Shin was frantically searching for Sakamoto's wife and daughter. He finally found them unconscious in a nearby room. Before he could react, Agbur appeared with a group of assassins. Smirking, she taunted Shin, calling him the key part of their mission. Just as Shin was about to respond, Lu charged in and delivered a powerful punch to Agbur's face, sending her flying and spitting blood. Standing confidently, Lu declared that she would show Agbur the strength she inherited from her family. Shin, observing Lu's stance, noted that it looked like kung fu and jokingly commented that she still reeked of alcohol. Agbur, recovering from the hit, admitted that Lu's strength gave her chills. Back with Sakamoto and Bold repeated his question, asking if Sakamoto remembered him yet. Once again, Sakamoto said no and pressed for details about Bold's family. Irritated, Bold snapped, "Go figure it out yourself, I'm not your mother." Bold then tossed a small bomb at Sakamoto. However, the explosion barely affected him and Sakamoto retaliated with a powerful strike. But Bold skillfully dodged and threw a cluster of colored pellets, causing multiple explosions around Sakamoto. The chaos shook the room, and Bold managed to land a punch so powerful that the building trembled. Meanwhile, Agbur turned to her group and declared, "The party has started." She blocked a punch from Lu and grabbed her hand, acknowledging her strength but boasting that she wasn't stronger than her. Agbur then grabbed Lu by the head and violently shook her until she collapsed unconscious. Turning to Shin, Agbur taunted him, saying it was now his turn to show his strength. Two assassins restrained Shin against a metal frame, while another brought out a chainsaw. Mocking him, Agbur said she believed Shin's power only emerged when he was angry. She then told Lu that every 10 seconds she would strike her. If Lu didn't respond, she would proceed to cut Shin apart with the chainsaw. Lu, in tears, began apologizing to Shin, admitting that she couldn't do anything to help. Shin, trying to lighten the mood despite the dire situation, looked at Lu and muttered, "You're clearly drunk from all the alcohol you had earlier." Meanwhile, Bold confronted Sakamoto, reminding him that he had retired 5 years ago. He claimed that Sakamoto's inability to match his attacks was proof of how much weaker he had become. "It's sad," Bold remarked, disappointment evident in his voice. "I once idolized you, but look at you now." Sakamoto attempted another punch, but Bold quickly countered by tossing an explosive pellet, sending Sakamoto reeling. Smirking, Bold taunted, "My explosive pellets and rocket punches. I've perfected these weapons over the years." As he spoke, he recalled the days when he first introduced these inventions to the team. Fueled by frustration, Bold launched a flurry of strikes, each one carrying the weight of his anger. "You weaker than before. He shouted, landing a devastating kick that sent Sakamoto flying across the room. As Sakamoto slammed into the wall, Bold lit a cigarette and sneered, "Sweet dreams, Sakamoto." Just as he began to celebrate, Sakamoto's voice rang out, calm yet menacing. "Farewell to the days of your adolescence with me." Bold stiffened. Sakamoto continued, explaining the precise chemical components of Bold's bombs, revealing his intimate knowledge of their design. His eyes burned with determination. "Now, I'll show you what I'm truly capable of." Lu endured Agber's relentless blows, refusing to back down. However, a powerful kick sent her stumbling backward. Lu, breathless but defiant, muttered, I'm so tired." Shin, still restrained, recalled Agbor's cruel words, how she would strike Lu every 10 seconds. He clenched his fists, fear creeping in. "It's over," he whispered to himself. Agbor aimed another kick at Lu, but this time, Lu dodged with ease. She smirked. "You got lucky." Shin, watching intently, scolded her. "Take this seriously, Lu." His frustration was growing. Agbor, unimpressed, delivered a brutal strike to Lu's stomach, sending her skidding backward. "Enough joking," she said. But then, to everyone's surprise, Lu started laughing. Agbor turned around in confusion. "What's so funny?" Lu took a swig from her bottle, completely unfazed. As Agbor lunged at her with a barrage of punches, Lu effortlessly dodged every strike. Growing impatient, Agbor attempted to grab Lu's clothes to land a decisive blow, but she failed. Lu suddenly grabbed Agbor's hand, gently kissed it, and in a flash, delivered a crushing blow that sent Agbor stumbling back. Agbor let out a loud laugh. "That's it? Kill me. I love it." Lu shook her head. "We don't kill," she said firmly. "That's a rule my family follows." "Family?" Agbor scoffed. "The Sakamoto family consists of only 3 members, you fool." Lu's expression darkened. "You called me a fool," she muttered, clenching her fists. "Since coming to Japan, I've learned a lot, and now I'm being called a fool." She lunged at Agbor, preparing to strike. But just as her fist reached Agbor's face, she stopped, her fingers barely grazing her skin. Agbor's eyes widened in shock. Before anyone could react, Lu blinked, looking around in confusion. Where am I? Who's this lady? And why is Shin tied up? Shin's face twisted in disbelief. "You woke up at the wrong time." Agbor, still stunned, burst into laughter. "Are you mocking me?" She suddenly smiled and said, "I like strong warriors like you, Lu." Without warning, she pulled Lu into a tight hug. Shin sighed in relief. Looking at Agbor's men, he smirked. "I'm safe now." Back to the fight, Sakamoto calmly finished his analysis of Bold's explosives. Bold exhaled sharply. "You'd be stronger if you lost some weight. If you want to fight me properly, let's go." "I know you want to save your family." Sakamoto's expression didn't change. "My family doesn't need saving," he replied. "I trust them completely." Bold hesitated for a split second. "TCH whatever." He was about to retort when, BAM. Sakamoto's fist connected with Bold's face, sending him crashing through the wall. The ground shook as Sakamoto advanced, delivering another devastating kick, followed by a rapid succession of punches. Bold barely had time to react before Sakamoto shattered his weapon with a single well-placed punch. Bold gritted his teeth, reaching for his explosive pellets. He hurled them at Sakamoto, but before they could detonate, Sakamoto caught them. "What?" Bold gasped. Without hesitation, Sakamoto slammed the pellets into Bold's stomach, causing a massive explosion of pain. Bold fell to his knees, gasping for air. How do you still have this strength?" he choked out. Sakamoto exhaled, adjusting his stance. "I used my strength for the wrong reasons in the past," he said. "Now, I use it to protect the people I love." With that, he charged forward, his fist glowing with unstoppable force. Meanwhile, at the amusement park, 2 visitors enjoyed the rides, oblivious to the chaos unfolding nearby. Sakamoto and Wed were in a ride cart, sitting across from each other, when they were suddenly surprised by 2 people flying toward them. Wed, injured and spitting blood, admitted he hadn't given Sakamoto his full effort because he was tough. Meanwhile, Sakamoto's wife woke up and found Shin and Lu sleeping. She woke Shin and asked why he was there, mentioning that the last thing she remembered was being in the haunted house. When she asked how they got there, Shin guessed they must have lost consciousness. She then asked about Sakamoto, and Shin admitted he didn't know but quickly ran off to find him. Back with Sakamoto and Wed, their cart finally reached the ground. As they got out, an employee asked what had happened. Wed told her not to worry about the injured man, but the employee clarified that she was asking about the destroyed ride cart, saying they had to pay for the damage. Wed accepted defeat, telling Sakamoto that he won and that he would leave him alone now. Sakamoto then ordered 5 meat sandwiches. As he ate, Wed asked for a bite, and Sakamoto handed over what he was eating. Wed happily took it, calling it an honor. Sakamoto replied that the leftovers were meant for his family. Just then, Shin arrived, shocked to see that Sakamoto had lost weight so quickly. He pulled out his phone and took pictures in disbelief. Wed then asked Sakamoto how he planned to handle the gang, since they had placed a bounty on his head. Before Sakamoto could answer, his wife arrived and overheard the word reward, immediately showing anger. She demanded to know what was going on. Meanwhile, Lou told Hannah to finish playing, and Hannah excitedly pointed at some candy she wanted. Agbur, watching, commented that Hannah was too spoiled but had great potential. Sakamoto's wife then asked for an explanation. Sakamoto admitted that there was a bounty on his life. Furious, she asked why he hadn't told her sooner. Wed took a bite of his sandwich and explained that Sakamoto didn't want to worry her so she could enjoy the amusement park with their daughter. Turning to Wed, Sakamoto's wife asked who he was. He introduced himself as a professional assassin. Angrily, she demanded that he not kill her husband. She then asked Sakamoto why he kept this a secret, saying she would have found out anyway. Sakamoto admitted he didn't want to stress her out. She reminded him of their family rules, pulling out a book and pointing to rule number 6, no secrets between us. Shocked, Sakamoto nodded in agreement. She then said that once this was settled, they should go watch a show. Wed, impressed, commented that Sakamoto's wife was tough. At the presentation, Shin asked Sakamoto how they could solve the issue. Sakamoto replied that they needed to kill the person who presented the contract to the gang, which would cancel the bounty. However, they first needed to figure out who that person was. Agbur mentioned that the order came from Jihai, making it hard to track the source. Bullet suggested he might be able to get information from his boss. Shin told Bullet to call his boss, but Bullet asked why he should do it. Shin called him useless, frustrating Bullet, who then agreed to go, taking Agbur with him. Shin then asked if they had figured out where DWI was. Sakamoto said he knew someone who could help and led them to a man. On the way, Shin appeared angry. Lou asked if he was in pain, but Shin was actually just confused about how Sakamoto had regained his weight so quickly. They eventually arrived at the man's office, which was filled with movies. Shin, confused, asked what kind of place it was. Sakamoto explained that they sold information in the form of films and directed them to a screening room. Inside, they watched footage of Jay Kaui's presentations. Shin took notes, while Lou seemed sad after the movie ended. When they left, Sakamoto went to pay, but the bill was expensive. Shin asked how he planned to afford it, and Sakamoto simply replied that he had saved up plenty of money over the years. With that, they left the library. An employee asked Sakamoto if he would return to them, then warned him to be very careful and mentioned that someone from his team was behind this. Sakamoto asked him to clarify. The employee replied that he didn't know more than that and that there was no movie for it anymore. Next, we moved to Nagumo, who was sitting at a business lunch. They asked him about Sakamoto. Nagumo told them he hadn't seen him in a long time. The man with the yellow hair told Heio not to interfere and said the man could show up at any moment. Heio replied that it didn't matter and expressed doubts about Nagumo's loyalty, directing a knife strike at him. Nagumo cleverly blocked it with a fork and told him to save the killing for dinner. The man with the yellow hair then told Suraji that he didn't think it was their fight. Suraji told Miss Shishi, the man with the yellow hair, that he thought he hadn't eaten this food. Shishi called the chef over, grabbed him, put his head on the table, and stabbed his hands with a knife, telling him he didn't like onions with his food. Mr. Ira entered and greeted them, saying he was from GGI and that their gathering was very good. Heio told him they hadn't finished yet. There were only 4 of them. Shishi said the other 3 never showed up, and Takamura wasn't there either, though he always came. Nagumo said he thought Takamura had something that kept him busy. Shishi disagreed, believing he had just forgotten the appointment. AR showed them a photo of someone from GGI who was wandering around, and they didn't know who he was. He asked them to deal with the situation quickly. Now we moved to Sakamoto, Shin, and Lou outside the Don Koi building. Sakamoto told them they would avoid killing and that it would be a secret operation. They put on their operation clothes. Inside the building, two guards were walking in the hallway. Shin threw a rope on the first guard, making him disappear. Then Sakamoto took out the second one. Afterward, they took off their clothes. Lu asked about the leader of the place, and Shin explained that the leader's office was on the upper floor. They needed to jump from the other window. Shin then asked Sakamoto if he knew about that. Sakamoto replied that he had been sleeping through the movie. Next, we moved to a guard washing his hands. He heard a sound, opened the window, and showed his gun. But Sakamoto pointed a gun at his head from above and shocked him with electricity. They entered the room and Lu tied him up with a rope. Lu said she was really enjoying being a spy. Shin reminded her they weren't here for fun. They went to the leader's room, and Shin told Sakamoto that he hadn't heard any thoughts from anyone here and thought the place was empty. They entered the leader's room and found many dead guards on the ground, with Nagumo sitting alone in a chair in the middle of the room. Nagumo said to Sakamoto, "I caught you red-handed, didn't I?" Shin asked Nagumo what he was doing there, and Nagumo replied that he had killed the upper management employees. He then said that Sakamoto had to die too. He revealed a knife and quickly appeared behind Shin, stabbing the knife into his neck. Shin grabbed his neck but saw no wound. Nagumo laughed and told him the knife was fake, just a joke. Shin attacked him, and Nagumo said that when he arrived, everyone was dead and he hadn't done anything. He was there for another mission. Sakamoto asked Nagumo what had brought him there. Nagumo explained that he was looking for something and that many professional killers had been killed. Shin asked what was strange about that, and Nagumo explained that while killings due to fights were normal, these were unusual. He told them that 100 fighters from organizations close to GGI had been killed brutally, and he thought it was a message to GGI. Shin said that was a quarter of the professional killers, and Nagumo added that after each killing, an X mark was left on the wall. Sakamoto asked if it was a commission request, and Lu asked what the request was. Nagumo replied that he was alone in GGI and the best among the killers. He explained that they handled operations for dangerous killers and had a large system in the world of killing. He also mentioned that Sakamoto was among the request and warned him to be careful of the X. Shin told them they hadn't become killers, and Lu told him they were just there to find out about the reward. Nagumo said he didn't know much about it, but the killers were attacked just after the reward for killing Sakamoto was announced. We then moved to a killer drawing an X on the wall after killing many others. Next, we moved to Sakamoto's store, where Shin said that after everything, they were back at square one. They entered the store and a man was holding a knife, asking where Sakamoto was. Lu taught Hana to press a button, causing a bunch of weapons to fall on the killer's head. Sakamoto remembered Nagumo's words. If he was as strong as Bullet, he was finished. Sakamoto said that since they didn't know who the killer was, they would train to defend themselves. The man entered the store and asked Lu for something, but Lu struck him on the head with a bottle, causing him to fall, his head bleeding, and a knife beside him.